Our top focus at this hour. Now, India's top court ruled against the government's 2018 introduction of electoral bond scheme for contributions to political parties. We decode what the electoral bond scheme is and the Supreme Court's ruling and the reasoning in this report. Well, the Supreme Court threw out the election bonds plan that was put forward as an alternative to cash donations to political parties. The top court said the scheme needs to be struck down because it is against the Constitution. The court argued that the electoral bond plan is not the only scheme to curb black money. There are other alternatives as well. The ruling said there are two reasons why people give money to political parties. A, to support the party, or as a way of saying thank you for your services. Now, citing this, the Supreme Court said the scheme goes against people's right to know about possible quid pro quo between the government and big companies. Now, what is the electoral bond scheme? The government in 2018 introduced the scheme as an alternative to the age-old practice of cash donations for funding political parties. A bond is promissory note which can be bought by anyone, including individuals and companies. Now, these bonds can be purchased for any value in the multiples of 1,000 rupees from specified branches of the State Bank of India. But they can only be bought with money through a bank account, which meets all the Know Your Customer or the KYC rules. Now, the centre's objective was to enhance transparency in poll funding. So what was the case against the scheme? Well, the bonds buyers' names remain anonymous under the scheme, which the petitioners argued against. The opposition said the electoral bonds' confidential nature will promote corruption. Now, the petitioners said the scheme does not allow a level playing field between parties. This was based on the rule that the scheme applies to only those groups listed under the Representation of People's Act. In addition, the parties had to have at least 1% of the votes in the latest election to take part in the scheme. Now, this is a key ruling ahead of the elections in the next few months. We were just joined by Mr. Vikas Singh for more on the Apex Court's judgment. And this is what Mr. Singh has in fact served as the Additional Solicitor General of India and the President of the Supreme Court Bar Association. And this is what he had to say.
Well, according to me, it will not have any impact on the upcoming elections because the bond scheme has been set aside, and rightly so, because there was no justification to not have transparency in the people depositing the money. So whoever was paying to a political party, his name had to be disclosed if the whole purpose was to bring in, fairness in the electoral process. But I have one problem with the judgment. In the judgment, if you have quashed the scheme and said that it is unconstitutional, there is no way that you could have allowed the political parties to retain the money. And there are more than one problems on that. So a company or whoever paid to a political party under the assurance of anonymity. Now, if he had known that this anonymity will go away, he may not have paid at all. Even otherwise, when a scheme is found to be constitutionally not, valid or constitutionally invalid, then there is no question of permitting the political parties to gain advantage out of the money that has been collected by them, because it has been actually a completely illegal collection if the whole scheme itself is bad.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.